Continuing the conversation now with Israeli government spokesperson Eylon Levy. Welcome back and thank you for joining us. There is some new reporting that Israel knows the location of the Hamas chief, Sinwar. Is that true, and anything more you can share on that front?
We had sensitive intelligence about the location of Hamas leaders. Unfortunately, I'm not going to share it on News Nation, other than to say that our policy is that every Hamas terrorist is a dead man walking. In the wake of the October 7 massacre, we are fighting to bring to justice the terrorists and the masterminds who burned, beheaded, mutilated, and raped so many Israelis on October 7th, and have spent every day since then threatening to do it again. We know that this war has to end with the total destruction of Hamas, because otherwise it will attack our people and drag Gaza into ruin, just as it has been threatening to do every day since the brutal atrocities it perpetrated on October 7th.
Hard to forget that day and the horrific nature of the attack, and those who continue to be impacted, including the hostages and their loved ones who are hoping for them to come home. Is there any update on talks, or have they continued to stall?
We are, of course, intensely concerned for the fate of the 136 hostages still trapped in the Hamas terror dungeons. Time is running out for them. Time has already run out for the 25 who have already been killed in captivity. And Hamas is now holding their bodies up for a ransom. The families of the hostages today released a chilling medical report that I hope you cover, explaining how all of those hostages, those who are still alive, face immediate life-threatening danger. We're hearing chilling accounts of physical, psychological, and sexual abuse that those hostages are suffering in the Hamas terror dungeons. And that is why we are fighting to bring them back home. Our policy at the moment is to continue putting military pressure on Hamas to release those hostages. It's what worked last time when Hamas agreed to a hostage release pause, and we got over 100 hostages out of Gaza, and we hope it's going to work again. And as and when we have anything to update on sensitive talks that, of course, I can't elaborate on because human lives are in the balance, but when we have information, we will be able to share that with you.
Yeah, I understand the delicate nature of it. But just one more question on that. The Hamas terror group is asking for the remainder of Palestinian prisoners to be free. Is that even an option worth discussing?
I'm not going to discuss the details of negotiations behind the scenes. Human lives are at risk. What is clear is that Hamas must release the hostages immediately and unconditionally. It must give them access to the Red Cross. We're talking about people who are intensely vulnerable. If they weren't vulnerable when they were abducted, they certainly are now. Epileptics, asthmatics, poor Hirsch Goldberg-Pollen, who was abducted after Hamas blew off his left arm from the elbow down after throwing grenades into a rocket shelter where he was sheltering. They haven't seen professional doctors from the Red Cross. The Red Cross is admitting it can't even be bothered to put pressure on Hamas to see them. And we need to see more people putting pressure on the Red Cross. It's why every interview I'm doing, I'm wearing this dog tag here. I'll hold it above the stripe that so many people in Israel are wearing. It says in Hebrew, "Our hearts are captive in Gaza, and bring them home now." That is one of the central reasons we are fighting this war. We will not abandon those hostages in the hands of the Hamas rapist regime.
And that's also a priority for the Biden administration. Secretary of State Antony Blinken there now. How would you characterize the conversations between the secretary and top leaders in Israel right now, and what we may see come of it?
Secretary Blinken was here for meetings with the Prime Minister. He met with the War Cabinet as well. I think it's the 5th time that he's been here. It's been a very good and positive meeting. The Israel-US dialogue has never been stronger. The Secretary has spoken very clearly on every possible occasion that the United States will not rest until it brings back all of the hostages, that this war can end immediately if Hamas surrenders now. And it's important as well that he is here to prevent this conflict from escalating. We're dealing with a very dangerous situation in the north, where Hezbollah has decided to join the war on the side of Hamas. It's raining rockets on northern Israel, and 80,000 Israelis are now displaced from their homes because of Hezbollah's aggression on our border. And we're warning that there is now a window of opportunity for a diplomatic solution that we prefer to get Hezbollah away from our border. And we hope that the Secretary will be able to work with regional partners to get Hezbollah to back off. But we're not going to accept 80,000 Israelis displaced from their homes, homes that Hezbollah is shelling. And we're warning clearly that Hezbollah needs to back off, or we will have to push it away. And we hope a diplomatic solution can still be found.
Finally, the secretary met with the Saudi crown prince, and they are now pushing for a two-state solution. We've heard President Biden suggest the same. Is that something Israel is considering, looking at a post-war Gaza?
These are questions about long-term political horizons at a time that we are focusing on destroying Hamas. There are many views in Israel about the right way to achieve a secure peace with the Palestinians. And if there's one thing that everyone in Israel, from left to right, agrees, there is no room for Hamas after this war. Hamas is an enemy of peace. Hamas exists in order to prevent any sort of peaceful settlement of this conflict, because its vision is the violent destruction of our country. And so even Israelis who firmly support territorial compromise with the Palestinians realize that for there to be any hope of peace, the Hamas rapist regime has to go.
We'll have to leave it there for now, but as always, Eylon Levy, thank you for your time.
As always, a pleasure, Manny. Thank you.
In New York City, more than